Hey everybody, and welcome to some more stat check bonus content. This is the Innis reports for the LGT, the London Grand Tournament. It was 1,080-ish, 1,067, I think, player tournament. A whole 10 rounds, and I managed to finish 4th out of this biggest singles event in the world, and I'm here to tell you guys a bit about how that went down. Sort of the process, what the process for preparing for a tournament like this looks like, what the list design process went like, which is a fun story this year because I didn't take this one to the same degree that I sometimes do. And then a little bit about how the games went. I don't want to go super in depth in all of them because there are 9 games, but there were 3 games I played on stream. It'd be good to have a look at some of those ones as well and talk a little bit more in depth about those ones, especially the one that I lost against Alex Sacco in round 9, and just kind of give you guys a general vibe of what I think about the state of Space Marines right now. Because obviously, as you can see from the title here, I did play the Stormlance Task Force Space Marines. I played Ultramarines with a Storm Raven, with Gulliman, with Calgar, and all of the usual accoutrement, as well as some extra spice in the form of 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. They came down 15 points. That was the big change for me in the balance update. Every time the Redemptor Dreadnought sees a points drop, my eyes light up. I turn into, oh, how do I play this mode? Because I was excited about it. I wanted to get it on the table, and it felt like a really good opportunity to do that. So yeah, we'll talk a bit about it in the list, but you can see here, I got a picture of myself just after I lost to Alex with my Storm Raven. I've also got my metal Calgar in my hand because I was using my metal Terminator Calgar, and then a picture of the hall with its 500 tables of Warhammer. It was truly incredible. The noise in the room was insane, just like the entire thing just roaring. I have a picture, I don't think I put it in the slideshow, but a picture of me like once all the tables have been folded down, there was just like one table left. It was David Gaylor playing Marco Santapadre in the for the cut to top 8, and just it being the only table left in the middle of this entire gym hall was kind of crazy. There was a lot going on. It was a really cool tournament. It's great to see the biggest tournament in the world be in the UK now after LVO took its move and dropped down to just under 600 players this year, going from being over 1,000. The LGT finally took over. And yeah, there's a lot to be said. Another to put one point, another disappointing super major outside of Scotland this year for me. Not winning is always a little bit of a heartbreaker. It's always it's always nice to be in the conversation, but not getting to not getting to cross the finish line always hurts a little bit, right? It's possible to say. Impossible to say that you're not a little bit gutted. I'm also upset I didn't get a swing at the tall man. That's the real one, right? Liam VSL won the LGT for the 3rd year in a row. I didn't get the chance. I've not, in the 3 years I've been, I've not played Liam, which is definitely one of the consistent things behind the fact that I've done as well as I have in those years. I've not been one of the people that lost to Liam on the way up, but getting a crack at him would be really nice one of these years. All right, let's start with the list. So see here, this is the list. It is a really simple list. There is not a ton of stuff in it. It is almost entirely missing units. So we've got Root Gulliman, we've got Marnus Calgar with his 2 Victory Guard and a Company Hero Squad. We've got a Lieutenant with the Combi Weapon, 1 Squad of Intercessors, 1 Squad of Incursors, 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts with the Macroplasma, the Onslaught Gatling Cannon, and Frag Storms, 2 Storm Speeder Hammer Strikes, and a Storm Raven Gunship with Plasma and Melta, as well as the Hurricane Bolters. The broad stroke story of this list is that I was at the Dunehammer Super Major playing World Eaters the weekend before this event. The advanced data slate obviously had its early release, so the the Super Major that I was going to the weekend before LGT suddenly was using the data slate, and I was expecting it to be a buffer event with like last event without the data slate going into it. So I was playing World Eaters for that event, and then the meta changed. I changed my World Eaters list up a bit, but I was kind of at the point where I had played the event with that list. I went 7-0 with it. There'll be a report on that one coming in the near future. But playing the 50 Berserkers World Leaders list to a 7-0 performance, I definitely came out of that being like, okay, this works on WC terrain, but I would feel a little bit sketchy about playing this on UKTC terrain, which is obviously what LGT is played on because it's the finals of the UKTC season. So I made the decision that I wasn't going to play World Eaters as much as I enjoyed it. And I think looking at the results from LGT, I was happy with that decision. The World Eaters had 74 players. They were the most represented non-Space Marine faction, and I don't believe they put anybody into the top 16. I don't think they put anybody into 5-0, actually, really disappointingly. I think nobody hit the top 32 with World Eaters, which for the most common army at the tournament besides Space Marines was obviously a disappointment. And shout out to a bunch of the Team Scotland applicants that were playing that army this year. They did a good job. A bunch of them went 4-1, but 4-1 is not 5-0, right? And when we're looking at trying to win the tournament, which is where I'm obviously coming from, that's the land I try to live in whenever I attend a tournament. I would like to do my best to win. I didn't feel like World Eaters were going to be the most competitive option I could do for that. And sort of on a whim, I had seen the points change to Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I had seen a few lists floating around, like Kit Smith Hanna had designed a list that had been playing a little bit that I'd heard about that was like triple Redemptor, triple Landspeeder Vengeance, because they came down in points along with like sort of the Azrael package. And I was chatting back and forth with Anthony Vanella, obviously one of the StatCheck co-hosts, and we were kind of back and forthing on what does a Dark Angels look like with this? And it was like triple Redemptor, triple Deathwing Knight. And it's like, oh, it seems kind of interesting in Gladius. I could see how that like those pieces fit together. It's a lot of -1 damage. But we kept circling back. Obviously, I've been focusing a lot on Grey Knights recently with the new codex being a little boring, and I'd played a bunch of the Stormraven in Warpbane. And as many of you'll know, the Stormraven in Space Marines is also quite powerful. It's not as good on datasheet as it is in Stormlance, but it gets a lot of benefits out of both the moment and the general good stratagem suite, as well as being able to have real dreadnoughts transporting it. And obviously, both John Lennon, who was the sort of originator of the Stormlance Ultramarines list, and Josh Roberts, who popularized it in the UK, have been playing a lot of variations of this sort of Guilliman Calgar Stormlance package with the Stormraven and like Brutalis and Ballistus Dreadnoughts. Josh had been playing it with a bunch of Hammer Strikes. Obviously, John was playing it with that too. And we'd seen a lot of iterations on that formula. And I kind of said to Anthony, I was like, spoke to Anthony, and we're like, what if you did in Stormlance with the triple Redemptors, and we just replaced the Ballistus Dreadnoughts, because the Ballistus Dreadnoughts went up 10 points to 150, and the Redemptors came down from 210 to 195. So that suddenly went from being a 70-point gap to a 45-point gap. That's a much more bridgeable distance, right? That's effectively cutting one Hammer Strike from the list, and you can upgrade 3 Ballistus Dreadnoughts to 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Not that I think the list was playing 3 Ballistus, but the concept is there. And it kind of fits that same gap of, well, we were trying to cram in a bunch of -1 damage with the 3 Deathwing Knight squads. What if we just did Redemptor Dreadnoughts that are much more durable, much more bulky? Stormlance gives them the ability to advance and charge. One of them can advance and shoot. So a lot of the time that your opponent's not going to put stuff in front of you, you can still get the Redemptors into combat. They're a bit faster. One of them can embark in the Stormraven, which is really cute. And we'll kind of just like fill it out with the literal bare minimum chaff that you can do, with one squad of intercessors to hold the home objective, one squad of incursors to be some scout pressure and some early trading, and the combi lieutenant to be sort of like your standard objectives guy, and we'll push Guilliman and Calgar at people. And I like the idea of this a lot, because the UKTC boards are kind of characterized by this massive centralizing central ruin that it's very hard to deploy outside of that ruin, because there's very, very open firing lanes across the rest of the board. The side objectives are a lot in the open, which encourage you towards playing shooting. And this is a list that plays shooting very well, but also has a very, very small footprint. Because of Guilliman and Calgar, you can put Calgar and a Stormraven inside the Redemptor Dreadnought. They fit in like a tiny little space that you can very comfortably hide the Stormraven in. The Stormraven's got a lot of maneuverability, being able to go up to 26 inches and she'll shoot. And it can give you an additional bit of threat range on Calgar and a Redemptor Dreadnought, which all came together to be like, okay, I think this is genuinely kind of interesting. So I put it together on the Sunday night at Doonhammer. I went to the store that they had at the venue, and I bought a Stormpeter Hammer Strike. I went onto Element and I bought another one. I was like, all right, I'm going to submit it. And I submitted it with no practice and without playing a rep on it and without changing the list. I just submitted what Anthony sent me because I was busy winning a super major. I didn't have time to think about the list. Part of that comes down to, I think the UKTC format terrain is bad. I don't think it's a particularly well-suited competitive environment, and I think it creates for a lot of very flippy games. And when you combine massive ruins in the midfield with in from the wall blocking and very easy access to that midfield ruin, but with also incredibly open side objectives, it creates a very polarized game sense. So my thought process in that situation is, well, I'm going to lean into that. A lot of my practice recently has been on WTC, because Doonhammer was on WTC, Eurotrash Open was on WTC, and obviously coming out of WTC was on WTC, right? With WTC and War Masters. So I think of the last like 400 games I've played, 360 of them have been on WTC terrain. Like I'd spent a bit of time practicing for like German Super Major, a little bit of time practicing for like LVO and stuff like that, but mostly I play WTC. And WTC pushes you towards more mixed arms and melee armies, right? Fast shooting is great, but it's not the be all and end all, and I like playing melee armies. Obviously, my Host of Ascension army died in a horrible fire. Poor guys. So I was looking for something very different, and yeah, this felt like it ticked all those boxes. It was fast, aggressive, wasn't super reliant on charging through walls. Guilliman and Calgar are small enough units that you can crack that ruin quite well. I found with the additional 3 inches of range that you got on Guilliman or on Calgar disembarking, you could hit a big enough advance that Gulliman and the heavy bolter from the company hero squad could get onto the small piece of this, like the small ruin piece. I'll point out when we start looking at a picture. The small ruin piece next to the big ruin on most boards, which allow you to see in and clear a gap with some guns that you could then, with that and potentially the Stormraven shooting, could then charge into your opponent's big ruin, which then gave you the ability to sort of, I'm going to refer to a lot as cracking the big ruin, because that was a very, very important piece of winning games on this terrain format, was being able to crack that big ruin and shooting your opponent's expansion objectives. And this army has withering shooting. Not great objective play, but we don't worry about it, right? Holding your home objective is only important if you don't have your opponents, and we very much went with that philosophy every game except the one that I lost. Yeah, definitely. Do I feel like this is a list that is suited for everyone? Probably not. I think if you were going to take this yourself, you should consider cutting one of the hammer strikes for 2 scoring units. The version that Paul Neuberger, one of the other guys that made top 8, was looking at was cutting 1 sword speed hammer strike and using the 10-point spare, because this is 1990 points, to add in an outrider squad and a tech marine. And I think that that's a really, really smart set of changes for playing this, which is like, hey, you have a unit with a massive footprint with an outrider squad that can use all the Stormlance stratagems, and then a tech marine that can be a solo lone operative in your backfield, or go on an objective with a Redemptor Dreadnought and push you that like 5 OC to flip an objective. That was a really, really cool piece of, like, a really cool thought from Paul. And losing the hammer strike is not the end of the world, because it is quite short range, and they tended to be the first things to die. So having that become replaced with an outrider squad that actually can be more durable in some ways, being toughness, being 12 wounds spread across 4 models, it's a little less likely to just like get shot to death by 1 gun, where the hammer strike could be. I think that's a really interesting space. Okay, so that's the thought process on the list. I played 1 whole practice game. I played against my teammate Struan Robertson from Team Scotland. He was playing Eldar. I lost 11-9. I full sent on turn 1 in Search and Destroy, and I flipped his home objective with Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and he flipped mine with Baharoth. And I went, cool, Baharoth is a problem. And that was the sum total of my thoughts on this game. That game became very quickly about, like, who could I deal with his Fuegan squad before it dealt with me. And yeah, it turned out the answer is mostly yes. A lot of the thought process there, and we'll talk about it when I talk about my 2 Eldar games, is can I make Fuegan come out and then kill him? He'll get his pound of flesh, and then I can deal with him afterwards. And the rest of the Eldar army doesn't really do anything. So, it was a really good practice game. Good to get that on the table. I then played Grey Knights with the Stormraven for the Invitational. The thought process behind that was that I would get used to moving the Stormraven on the train, but without having to play my main list, because I don't like playing the same list for the Invitational on the main event if I can avoid it, because it's just a lot of time with the same army, and I don't. I get bored. I get itchy if I play the same army for too long, without it being specifically for WTC. All right, let's jump over to game 1. So game 1, I paired up against Richard Farrow and his Gladius Task Force White Scars. This was definitely an interesting game. Richard was playing like double Lancer and a Repulsor Executioner, and then like Cursaricon and a sort of Blade Guard, and sort of like that kind of space. He had a Redemptor and a Ballistus and all that kind of stuff. We're playing Dawn of War, Sweeping Engagement and Terraform. Which is a miserable mission set. Just the deployment zones are so close together, and they're just very poorly equipped. You can kind of see, if we're looking at this board here, your deployment zone kind of runs like along here and then down here like this. This is the ruin piece I'm referring to when I'm talking about like advancing Gulliman out of this, Calgar out of this building, standing on this sea into this building, so that you can crack it, because you can get a few guns in there. Potentially the Stormraven can like fly over, hang its wing over, and see in as well, which is a really helpful piece. And one of the reasons why the Stormraven was so strong in this terrain format is that it can take up a ton of space like that. So we kind of deployed pretty standardly. We put 2 Redemptors in the middle, one of them inside the Stormraven, one of them down here, and then we put the Stormraven kind of behind this area, sort of filling the space. Hammer strikes on either side, and we didn't really do much. We took I want to say I took first this game. And more or less did nothing, but I'm going to just double check the score sheets. I don't have score sheets for all of the games for this event, just because I played so many of them on stream that I don't have them consistently. But I will refer back to them when I've got them. So yeah, for this one, I went first. I was able to take my sort of Incursor squad out of this building, walk onto this, pop a Terraform. I believe I put my Combi Lieutenant onto the middle objective and Terraform the center. Just to make him come and respond to it. Like if he wanted to walk within range, he could unterform himself, and then I would react back behind the wall, and then stage the Stormraven up against this wall, and then Ballistus Dreadnoughts pushed up behind it, and then on turn 2, I full sent. The Stormraven drove forward 20 inches, disgorged a Redemptor Dreadnought at the front. I oathed both of his Lancers, shot and killed them both. Gulliman and Calgar both came out of this building. Calgar disembarked before the Stormraven moved. They both advanced through. They charged in. I charged the Outrider squad and shot the screen, sort of intercessors that were screening the repulsor. I shot them to death with Calgar's unit, And then I charged the Repulsor Executioner with Guilliman, and I uppercutted it and killed it on turn 2. And then we were mostly playing cleanup from there. I killed basically all of Richard's anti-tank. I had terraformed 2 of the 3 middle objectives, and I had a bunch of pressure starting to go towards his side objective. He did actually rapid ingress his captain squad and then was able to push it towards my home objective and flip it. But unfortunately, in Terraform, I was able to stop him from terraforming it. His squad actually failed to kill this intercessor squad, so I was able to turn around, flip the objective, and then send a dreadnought back there to go and clear it out before he could get it terraformed himself. So it did mean that, unfortunately, Richard was not able to get a ton of points on the go. I actually never unterraformed this top left objective, but I did table him on, I believe, turn 4. And that was kind of a recurring theme. I don't believe I lost a Redemptor Dreadnought. I don't believe I lost a Stormraven in this game. A lot of the games my opponent just did not. Like, after taking... This list is very good at getting the first punch because it's fast and it's aggressive and it's a small footprint. So it usually hits hard and it hits first. And most armies then were drowning on under the scoring assets and potentially the Stormraven, the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and Guilliman and Calgar all being in combat with them, which then meant that they had to spend a lot of time taking themselves out at that time and just didn't have time to deal with my firepower. At which point you could just start kind of running up the tactical score, running up the primary, which they just would not be able to dig themselves out of. It was a kind of a recurring theme. Calgar would die almost every game. I think I only lost Guilliman once the whole tournament, and the Stormraven and Redemptor Dreadnought. Stormraven usually died in about half the games, and I think I lost 7 Redemptors across 9 games. Very much a case of that durability, like overload stacking, being able to go, I have 50 wounds of -1 damage. Your ability to deal with the first one is pretty good. Your ability to deal with the second one is diminished. The third one is impossible. The fourth one is untouchable. And Guilliman and Calgar kind of slot into that by having like similar kinds of durability. Guilliman having lone operative in the stand back up, Calgar having -1 to wound in the 4 up, feel no pain on himself, as well as an invulnerable save, armor contempt access. Most of my armor contempts were going, if they were going anywhere, was going on Calgar. Occasionally a Redemptor Dreadnought, but really not that much. So yeah, really cool gaming against Richard. It was very unfortunate to be on the receiving end. The Lancer that I shot first with the Stormraven died to the multi-melta. Just the multi-melta hit, wounded twice, AP4, ignore cover. He did not have armor contempt active because the hammer strike had shot him, and he didn't want to pop for a 6-up, and then just died to the multi-meltas with everything else still to come in, which then turned on Oath on the second Lancer, which then just died 1 to 100 to 0 to the Redemptor Dreadnought, which was really unfortunate, but it happens, unfortunately. Okay, game 2, I played against Simon Corder, and I definitely wrote Simon Corner in my app, so I am going to go and fix that because that's very rude. Simon Corder, who was playing Stormlance Task Force Space Wolves. This was another really, really cool army, actually. He was playing like a bunch of Thunderwolves, like a big squad of 12, a Lancer, Bjorn, Logan, kind of like all the regular stuff, as well as like a big squad of 6 head takers. But unfortunately, this is one of those games where his damage profiles just did not line up very well with mine, right? It's an army of a lot of damage 2 and damage 3, but playing Stormlance, you don't get access to any damage increase stratagems, right? That's kind of the one thing it doesn't really have, is it does not have the ability to say, this unit does more damage. Outside of Lance, which pushing from Strength 5 to Strength 5 Lance is great, but against Toughness 10 vehicles is not all that impressive. And damage 3 is not amazing into -1 damage, right? It's not as bad as it could be if you were damage 2, but it is still not great. You're still losing 33% of your damage against stuff that can quite comfortably kill you back. In this game, I believe I went second. Simon staged up his sort of his head taker squad. He had to tap the middle for area denial, I believe, or established locus area denial. So he had to tap the middle with like a squad of scouts. He pushed his big Thunderwolf squad up here to the corner, and my entire army full activated into him on turn 1. And I picked up the head taker brick from 100 to 0. I picked up the 6-man Thunderwolf squad with Guilliman, a Redemptor Dreadnought, and a bunch of shooting. Like, these Redemptor Dreadnoughts were able to come out here and shoot up the way. This was able to shoot up the way. I was able to poke him off this objective by shooting back the way. And then Guilliman and Calgar both just embedded in this building because they both came out to charge this turn. I was just like, well, I'm on top of you. We're playing Crucible of Battle. This is Purge the Foe. And I just full went in. And I believe this is the game that Simon did not score kill 1 in 5 turns, which was really unfortunate. He just kept bouncing off of things. His 5-man Wolfen squad charged the Stormraven, connected, did 10 damage to it, then died. His Bjorn and Logan and Thunderwolves charged into the Calgar break and Guilliman and lost the combat to Guilliman and Calgar. His Lancer connected 1 save on Guilliman, who passed it. And like, my army doesn't have a lot of stuff, right? Like, I have the 1 Encarcer squad that I think just went backwards. Like, they just screened back here the entire game until like turn 5 when they ran out. My intercessors at my home objective. My lone up lieutenant danced back and forth across this objective the entire game. and my vehicles just never got connected to, right? Like, he just didn't have the damage once his lance went down. So this ended up being a complete blowout, unfortunately. Simon was a lovely opponent and a complete gentleman, but he just did not have the tools after like being on the receiving end of a turn of interaction to deal with me. This Blister Dreadnought like came out, tried to shoot into the Stormraven with -1 to hit, -1 to wound active, and just bounced just clean 100 to 0. And then got shot back by 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts and lost the fight because Redemptor Dreadnoughts are good at killing other vehicles. They're good at killing everything, as it turns out. I'm a big fan of the stage at the moment. The ability to have 4 guns that can split fire well is super nice. Okay, game 3 was one of the most one-sided games I think I've ever played. And a heartfelt apology to Raph Harbinson, who is a wonderful, wonderful human being that I've played before, for being on just a brutal mission and map combination. So this was Search and Destroy Hidden Supplies. So you can see there's kind of the 4 objectives across the middle. This is the mission where you do not score points for your home objective. For Raph, who is mostly playing a short-ranged melee army with a little bit of shooting that caps out at strength 10, this is bad. This is very bad for him. There is kind of nowhere he can go that lets him score primary. And his damage output isn't that great into me. I don't have any units for Courier the Conceited to stack kills on. He can commit. And as long as so my kind of game plan going into this one was, I am not going to stand on objectives until I've taken a pound of flesh, at which point I will start standing on objectives. Or I will only stand on objectives that are really far away to make him commit resources to taking them out. So I did kind of like one of the Stormlance play patterns that you find is super, super powerful is the ability to poke one unit just out of the building and then say, if you want to touch the middle, that's fine. I'm going to react to move back behind the wall with my flat 6 reactor move, or react to move back into the Stormraven potentially, because it's just a normal move, right? So I was able to poke an Incursion Squad out onto the middle objective and stand it there, and Raph had to commit a bunch of stuff to try to get rid of that unit, and then didn't quite kill it. And I command rerolled the last save to keep it alive, like on a 3-up, and didn't die, so he didn't get his coat rebuff on turn 1, and then he didn't get his coat rebuff on turn 2, and Lucius is now taking 2d3 more wounds, is down to 3, and has to run backwards just in case he gets clipped by like the tiniest line of sight on a Redemptor Dreadnought and dies. The Demon Princes are strength 8 with no buffs, are very bad at killing Redemptor Dreadnoughts, especially when the Redemptor Dreadnought charges them. And this is one of those games where the fact that Thrill Seekers, the Emperor's Children army rule, doesn't allow you to charge back into something that you fell back from. Well, my entire army was charging him. We ended up having like one big combat in this ruin where like he had a Rhino in the center that was engaged with Guilliman, Calgar, a Hammer Strike was wrapping it so that when it fell back, it couldn't shoot anything. It had to just like shoot some random guns at something else. And at this point, the Stormraven is just like taking over the mid game. It kind of, one of the patterns you find with the Stormraven is it would flip back and forth from here to down here, to up here to down here, to up here to down here. And it would just jump back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, shooting this objective, then the middle, then this objective, and just splitting its guns until eventually it would fly forward. Oh, why is this not? Apologies, guys. I am realizing that the stream is stuck on the second page. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try and figure out what's going on there. There we go. So yeah, the Stormraven is going from this ruin to this ruin, or this side to this side to this side to this side, and just kind of constantly flicking these ruins. This is the ruin I was talking about with the big melee happening. And unfortunately, this whole time, I'm just not standing on the central objectives, right, with anything that matters. So Raph's Infractors are not really able to punch into a Redemptor Dreadnought that's -1 to damage that could potentially armor a Contempt. So he just constantly just kept standing in his box. Raph ended up having a bunch of opportunities to score points, but decided not to bother and just tried to kill Guilliman. And he was the only person the entire weekend that got Guilliman and got Guilliman's first life, let alone his second. Raph got both of them. He 100% Lucius did kill Guilliman. So he did get his Warlord kill in the end. One of the like most heartbreaking moments was after this Prince here, Rapid Ingress, the Redemptor Dreadnought on this objective banged an 11-inch charge into it and was able to tank shock and put it down to like 5 health, took some damage back. And then because this fight was happening on the side here, Raph had to commit the second Prince and 2 Noise Marine squads this way to deal with it. And I died to like the last reroll. Like I rerolled a 3-up save to try to live against the last melee attack that he could allocate into this guy. Otherwise, he would have failed his tally on turn, or he failed his tally anyway. But he would have failed the kill on turn 3 as well. And that was the 2 points he got on no prisoners. That was the only points he got the entire game. It was truly heartbreaking to watch. It was really, really difficult for Raph to play this game. Just the amount of -1 damage and the sort of just sheer amount of combat that I could deal. But he also couldn't come through this building, right? Because I've got this Incursion Squad an inch from the wall with Guilliman and Calgar sat behind it. like, well, he has to go around, and then I'm blocking that here with the Stormspeeder and the Redemptor, so he has to charge into a Redemptor or a Hammer Strike, both of which are not great targets, potentially get heroic by Gulliman or Calgar or both. It's a very, very difficult situation. And I'm able to kind of start sneaking up the side here with the Hammer Strike to like shoot down and start picking on his rhinos. Like with Ultimo, when I'm able to just like clear a rhino, he has quite a lot of stuff. So the footprint in this deployment zone, the Redemptor pushes out this way, clips an angle, puts half damage on a rhino, and he just starts losing all these attrition pieces, and he can't commit back into me because the damage is just too high. So yeah, really, really tough game for Wrath. This is definitely like exactly how we drew it up, the exact kind of list I wanted to play against. And I was, it was a great proof of concept to show that the army does this. Obviously, you can see that in my primary score, this sort of cannibalization of my score in order to make sure that I am not giving him the ability to kill, right? Like I go 5, 10, 15, 10 on primary in this game with 31 on secondaries because I'm not standing on objectives in order to make sure that he can't get rerolls, and my home objective is not worth anything, so that doesn't really make a difference. But it worked out in the end. I was able to just like completely keep Raph's score down, and then sort of tabled him on turn 4. Or my turn 5 potentially. But before between his turn 4 and 5 for certain. Okay, game 4 was into Patrick Farnborough. Unfortunately, this picture was actually taken quite late into the game. So this was a Retaliation Cadre, sort of a 21 suits build. This was the overnight pairing, so we had a lot of time to prepare for this one. So Patrick was playing a super cool Retaliation Cadre, was very similar to what Kyle Grundy was playing, with triple Sunforge, double Star Scythe, one of each loadout, triple Fire Knife, one of each loadout, 6 commanders, 3 Cold Stars, 2 Enforcers, 1 Farsight, and then like 30 Pathfinders, 2 Stealth teams, and some Kroot and a Strike team to hold their own objective. I think that's the sort of the bulk of it. Now, this matchup is super weird because everything is incredibly lethal to him, right? Like I can kill all of his stuff at clip. Everything just dies because it's not super durable. +1 to wound really, really adds up. And only the Sunforgers have an invulnerable save, but they're very vulnerable to like +1 to wound Hurricane Bolters because I don't care about cover, armor, Redemptor, or anything. If you're just going to take 16 3-up saves, it will kill a suit with my Hurricane Bolters. And then I'll do the same thing with the Gatling Cannon from the Redemptor Dreadnought, and and then my melee adds up. So my kind of goal this game is to make it about Gulliman and Calgar as quickly as I can. I want to kill the stuff that's scary to them, or kill the stuff that's scary to the vehicles. Either way, I'm happy. So if I can kill some Sunforges early, that's great. If I can kill the fire, the uppy downy Starflare Ignition Squad as quickly as I can, that would be great as well. It makes Gulliman Calgar's job a lot easier. What ended up happening this game is I was able to go second. Patrick has to kind of poke onto the middle objective with like a Kroot squad. A Pathfinder squad pokes up at this objective, and I just kind of stage up a little bit. I put like the Stormraven just up to the edge of this building, unable to be seen. I put the Redemptor Dreadnoughts here and here. I put 1 Redemptor Dreadnought here. The idea that you're kind of looking for against these kind of Fire and Fady Melta armies, the same thing applies to Aspect Host, is I am going to accept that your Sunforge team is going to kill a Dreadnought. It's going to. I can't really stop you. You're going to get to kill a thing. What I need to make sure that happens is that if you want to do it reliably by being within 6 so that you get Melta range, when you go back into your transport or you Fire and Fade, wherever you go to, that place is not safe. That place is in charge range of Gulliman, charge range of Calgar, shooting range of the Stormraven, or 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. If I can do that, I'll take my pound of flesh. And that's exactly what happened. Patrick was forced to commit a Sunforge team early. He commits it sort of up here. It fire and fades onto this objective to lock down a secondary. I commit Gulliman into it. I commit Calgar across the center. And at the same time, I throw in the Stormraven. The Stormraven kind of boosts from here inside this building all the way up to here to start shooting. And Patrick rapid ingresses a fusion squad behind here to start shooting it, and the Stormraven charges away because the Stormraven can advance and charge. So I was able to just charge backwards and get out of like easy fusion range. At the same time, I pushed a Redemptor Dreadnought, so Farsight's team has to go for a Redemptor Dreadnought. So this is the game, one of the games I lost Redemptor Dreadnoughts in. I lost both of them. I ended up losing the Stormraven in this game as well. The Stormraven eventually drove up to his home objective and started shooting and charging things. But at this point, I've got complete control of the mid board. We're playing Linchpin. He's got no threat on my home objective. The Starflare Ignition Squad gets tagged. Gulliman and Calgar are just kind of walking through his backfield. I believe he does eventually kill Calgar, but it takes like his entire army of shooting to do it. And there's like 1 Victrix Guard left alive that just kind of walks onto the middle objective and starts doing actions and like charging like the remaining Pathfinders. This game ended up being, again, not like massively one-sided, but Patrick went like 3-8-3-3 on primary because I was able to just kind of keep him off the center. I went 3-8-15-15. Secondaries are 30 to 32 on both sides. So the secondaries are pretty even. One thing you'll see with this list, it doesn't secondary like insanely well until it's tabled its opponent, at which point the secondaries become very easy. So the quicker you table your opponent, the higher you'll score. A very traditional way of playing a stupid skew army like this. But when you didn't, you were kind of chasing the high 20s, mid low 30s was usually what we're expecting. But if you were able to pressure opponents primary enough, that's usually completely fine. And we'll see why that was a little bit of an issue in one of the Persiaful games later, or in the Persiaful game later. But yeah, broadly, the highlight of this game for me was definitely Patrick realizing that his plasma squad wounds the Stormraven on sixes, while it was, if he was shooting in, he's like, so I wound you on, it's sixes, buddy, and just did no damage. And then one of his fusion squads shooting me in combat, hitting on fours, rolling ones, and just rolling across its 6 fusion shots, 5 ones, 2s, and 3s to hit, and re-rolling them into, or 5 2s and 3s and 1 1, which he then re-rolled into a 3. All of his fusion shots just missing the Stormraven because it was -1 to hit. It was really, really, really brutal for Patrick. The damage output just was not there for this many vehicles and Guilliman and Calgar at the same time. And he was never able to really pressure my home objective because his Starflare, I was able to nickel and dime screen my backfield, right? I was able to have just enough stuff that if you play a little cagey, a little safe, you can stop him from ingressing behind you. He has to ingress there's lots of ingress gaps in my army, right? So if Patrick had wanted to ingress in here, right, he would have been able to. It would have been a little awkward. He'd have been a line like this, which would have been a direct line of sight of this Redemptor Dreadnought, and potentially chargeable backwards. And then he could walk forward to this objective and put OC on it, but I would have 10 OC of or 8 OC of intercessors on it, which is the same and matching him. Because my objective is sticky, that wouldn't do anything. And he would have to give up a turn of shooting to do it because, well, they're not going to do anything, right? They're going to be over here. So they're either short range and not really hurting the Redemptor, or they're getting unlit, not getting it guided, right? Whatever it would be, it was just going to be really difficult for him to meaningfully take agency. So you were doing a lot of holding the backfield through implied pressure. If you want to go there, that's fine. If you want to rapid ingress there, I will shoot you, and you can drop there, but dropping there's not going to do anything, right? That's a lot of what you're looking for. And Patrick was feeling so pressured into rapid ingressing in his front field that he rapid ingress sort of up in this area, and then I charge backwards, right? Charging the Stormraven from here down to here, and then send a Redemptor in all at the same time. And yeah, I was just able to clear out enough of the teams that he just never quite dealt with Guilliman. Guilliman ended the game on his own objective without having lost his first life. Okay, game 5 was into Aspect Host. Now, this was definitely one of the matchups that I expected to be one of the tougher ones for this army. Fuegan is, as we all know, a massive pain in the backside. Fire and Fading Fire Dragons are a nightmare. So what is my goal this game? Well, my goal is that if Fuegan wants to come and kill me, I want him to have to come past this line. If Fuegan comes out of this building to stand here or stand here and shoot me, he might kill 2 vehicles. He might get really greedy and split fire and try to kill 3. That's going to cost him a lot of CP, a lot of resources, and I can hopefully potentially keep one of them alive with a defensive stratagem. Or he's had to spend 4 CP and a Star Engine and his Wave Server. And as long as when he does that, if he succeeds, he will die back. If that happens, I can win the game. Because the rest of his army doesn't kill a Redemptor Dreadnought. I think if the entire rest of his army activated into a Redemptor Dreadnought, it wouldn't kill it, unless it was exactly the Howling Banshee squad with the Ignore Modifier strat active, which again, he doesn't have infinite CP. He's got this Usserman squad over on the side that kind of has to save its best day ever for trying to kill Calgar. So we kind of played this really, really refused game where he goes first, and he kind of has to poke and prod and take a little bit of agency. I'm going to just double check that he did go first. Yeah, Luke goes first, and he has to poke onto the center objective. So I take some really tight angles with this guy, and I put a little bit of damage into him, and I charge this ranger squad that's on this objective because you have to be against the wall. So the speeder goes out 14, shoots a little bit up at this angle, and then charges onto this objective, shoots back at what's on this objective, charges the objective, and then I do the same thing up here. On his turn 1, Luke had pushed a War Spider squad up here. I Armoric attempted with the Law Lieutenant, and then moved the Stormraven over to shoot the War Spider squad. And then on Luke's turn 2, he goes for the all-in. He's he can see the writing on the wall that he is going to slowly choke out and die. This game I have bottom of turn scoring. He has to do something. So he commits the Dire Avenger Brick, but without using Asperman's Best Day Ever, plus the fire, plus the 1 squad of Dark Reapers to try to kill this guy. They end up failing, which is not that crazy. But was a little disappointing for him. And then the Banshee squad comes all the way over here. and the Fire Dragon squad comes out. He rolls the Star Engine in such a way that he can get exactly Fuegan onto this terrain piece, just this one here, and then the other 10 can all just see this guy, which is fine. Fuegan pops sustained hits, ignore cover, and ignore modifiers, and he's able to use the flip to convert a 6 to hit on the Storm Raven, which gets a sustained hit, and then he has 2 3-up rollables, and if he hits both of them, the Storm Raven automatically dies, and the Storm Raven died, which was not crazy, was not altogether that weird. But what does happen then is that the Redemptor Dreadnought that's inside it gets out right here, and Jane's squad has to charge the Redemptor Dreadnought. Calgar squad gets out behind the Storm Raven back here. The Storm Raven, he comes out over to here. Fuegan gets onto this terrain piece. The rest of the Fire Dragons kill this guy, and Jane's squad comes out of the building to here, and then charges the Redemptor Dreadnought here. I tried a heroic with Gulliman into the Wave Serpent when it charges into the Incursors against this wall, because they had reacted moved back with the stratagem, and I ended up rolling a 4 when I needed a 6 to get at the building, so I wasn't able to deny him that. But the Fire Dragon squad gets back in, and then these 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts plus this Redemptor Dreadnought plus the Gulliman Calgar brick that are all out here, plus this guy are able to then just like clean up everything here, and then I push towards his home objective and table him. And I think that was kind of like the long start of the game. Luke got his 110 on turn 2. He was able to hold this objective, or on turn 3, sorry, he was able to hold this objective for 1 turn, because I just kind of left it to him for a turn while I kind of pressured elsewhere. But then kind of was pushed into a box where he got 5 to 5, and he did not score any secondaries on turn 5. Yeah, I mean, overall, just kind of one of those games. This was a much better secondary game for me. I got 39 on secondaries and 45 on primary. I think that's kind of the biggest differentiating factor of this game is that like I got into a winning position very quickly, and then all my secondaries turn aligned. And if we're kind of looking at the game, my turn 4 secondaries are marked for death, no prisoners, and my turn 5 secondaries are areas and recover assets once I've tabled him. So the secondaries are much more live in that situation. If you have like a double positional secondary on 4 when you're having to kill several double action secondaries, that's where this list starts to hitting like the 30-point mark, and that's totally fine. 85 points will win you the game 90% of the time. Like you don't have to sweat it, but like if you're looking for the bigger scores, that's definitely where they're coming from with this kind of archetype. Is if you draw double kill secondaries on turn 4 or double like stand places secondaries, but not actions. If you draw double actions, it's going to be a little bit lower. So that was the 5-0 game. At this point, I had met my expectations. That was the goal for the tournament, was to go 5-0. Last year, I went 6-1. I lost in the shadow round. The year before that, I went 4-1, losing in round 5. So I was like, as long as I do about as well as last year, getting to play game 6 is the goal. When I go to LGT, I don't book return travel. I get my hotels for the Friday and the Saturday. And I have a plan for the Sunday night just in case. In this case, I was going to go and stay with a French in their Airbnb. But I don't book a train. I'm like, if I lose game 5, I get to get the train home tonight, and I'll be in Scotland. I'll be home in Scotland by Monday lunchtime. Fantastic. If I make the shadow round, we'll stay a night with an Airbnb with someone. I'll book a hotel room or whatever, and I'll get the train back up on Monday morning if I lost round 6. And otherwise, we'll see how it goes. The ideal for me is either winning the tournament or losing in round 9, and getting to go home that night, right? Because I get to be home on Monday, which is what ended up happening, as I'm sure the game coming top 4. If I had ended up in the final and lost it, I'd have had to pay for an extra hotel night and get the train up on Tuesday, which would have just been, that's a whole thing, right? So, first or third, fourth, happy with that. So anyway, I check in with the French. I double check with Nassim and Liam. Hey, can I crash on your Airbnb couch tonight? And they're all yes. And I'll book the Uber in the morning. Totally fair. And we move on. So we paired into good old Kyle Grundy, which is why I kept saying Kyle in the game against Patrick. So apologies, Patrick, for that. Okay, so this is Terraform. This is back to we did a full reset back to round 1. So round 1 to 5 in order, then round 1 to 5 in order for 6 through 10. So this is back to sweeping engagement Terraform. I am playing against the exact same retaliation cadre list. I think point for point, I think it was exactly the same. There might have been like a couple of minor warrior differences on some like crisis suits and stuff like that, but broadly 21 suits, 6 commanders, it's a bunch of chaff, and we're playing Terraform. Now this deployment is a goddamn war crime. This is the worst board I think I've ever played on in my life. And I didn't mention it a ton in round 1 because round 1 at a super major, you kind of expect it to be easy as one of the top players in the room. I don't want to nothing against my opponent, against Richard from round 1, but we weren't expecting that to be the most competitive game. This is meant to be one of the most competitive games you'll play in your life, right? This is round 6 shadow round at a super major, or top 32, whatever. You would expect this to be the biggest event in the world. You'd expect this to be a competitive game. Okay, well, let's have a look at where the Storm Raven can move to on turn 1. So with a rolling a 6 on an advance, the Stormraven can currently see but into this building. I can't see into this building, and I can't see into this building. You can see Kyle very carefully drawing a line there, that if he blocks it with these guys, I can't land on those positions. And I can see into this building because I can fly over here and hang my wing over the side there. So he has to block that out with crew. So Kyle goes first here, and Kyle pokes and prods out with a few things. He stands out. He terraforms some of the middle objectives. Oh, actually, sorry, I went first this game. So he has to deploy them all here, with the idea being that they cannot infiltrate backwards, because if they infiltrate backwards or scout backwards, I'm going to be able to see him. So he's going to have to bleed a little bit of Hand of Flesh into me. So I take my turn 1. I believe this Incursion Squad scouts forward, terraforms this objective, pushes up into the side. One Lieutenant follows up behind. I stage up to the edge of this wall. This Redemptor kind of just stays where it is, and I say go. My turn 1 is just scoring extend and discarding a my force and terraforming a couple of objectives. And then Kyle's turn 1 is drawing all dead cards and pushing out to screen me. He has to come out and terraform the middle objective. What I ended up doing, one of the things that I love for this army, I poke Calgar, one of Calgar's friends, onto the center objective. And I say, I'm terraforming this objective. If you would like to walk onto the middle objective to unterraform it, you have to let Calgar react and move backwards. If you want to shoot Calgar, in order to prevent me from having Calgar into the late game, you'll get 1 activation because it's one of Calgar's friends. I will kill this guy first. I will Armor of Contempt, so it's unlikely you'll do insane damage to me. And you'll have had to, you're a Tau army, you will have had to expose a real shooting unit into this central ruin system. So in order to see a Calgar model stood here, he's going to have to be in this area or this area. That's not an easy place to be when my army is here. And most of his good shooting units are very short range, like the Plasma Squad. Now, he can spend CP to fire and fade it, but they can only get away so far. And then I will continue to get terraform points because you're not unstickying it. And if you don't expose multiple pieces, then I might just kill the other guys in Calgar Squad, right? So I put the heavy bolter guy out. If you shoot me and you flub up and you don't do insane damage and I armor contempt and I pass a bunch of saves, I might go, I'm going to kill the bolt rifle guy, then the ancient. Okay, now you've done enough damage that I'll kill the heavy bolter guy, right? And you kill 3 guys, maybe you kill 1 victory card as well. And Calgar's unit is definitely diminished, but not really in combat effectiveness. But it's been diminished, but you expose 1 thing. Now, if you low rolled and only killed 2 guys, and you didn't put something else out to shoot Calgar, I'm just going to leave them there because you don't have anything else to shoot him. So I'm going to get the primary as well. And you've just exposed your unit, potentially spent a bunch of CP, probably lost the unit, and you've not actually stopped me scoring primary. You've actually let me score more. So Carl walks onto the middle and terraforms it because of course he does, right? He kind of has to. And I'm able to react to move back to the Stormraven and then have this insane threat pressure going again. And then he stages up sort of into this building. And on my turn 2, I look at the board state and I look at the fact that he's got 3 Crisis Squads in reserve. He's got 2 Sunforged teams and 1 his Plasma Fire Knife Squad. And I look at the Sunforged team in the center and I look at this ruin here and I look at the fact that all his chaff is dead already because I shot and killed a Pathfinder squad. I shot and killed the screw. It all just died. So he's down to 1 stealth team over here, 1 stealth team in this building, strike team and Pathfinder on this objective. This Intercessor Squad rolls in advance, goes up this way, gets a line to see the Pathfinders, gets a charge into them. This Hammer Strike walks up to the edge of this objective to see the center. The 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts all bundle in this area, 10 inches away from his home objective. The Incursion Squad comes out of this building, ready to charge into this building with an advance and charge. The Redemptor, flat advances 26, lands here. Gollum and Calgar come out of this building, land here. And Kyle Rapid Ingress is a unit back here. And then I connect into both of these units. I shoot them with the Stormraven. I connect and kill a Sunforged team. And Kyle makes the decision at that point that we're not going to continue the game because there's a Stormraven, Gollum, and Calgar in his deployment zone. He's just lost 1 of his 3 melee pieces, and his other squad is far enough away from me because it's over here. Because he had to Rapid Ingress it somewhere that wouldn't die, that if it wants to run forward, it's going to give Calgar a reactive move back into the Stormraven, at which point he will 100% not die. Gulliman is unlikely to die while he commits to the Stormraven, and the Stormraven is -1 to hit and wound, which means that only really the Meltas can kill it. So he's going to have to spend 2 CP on a 6-inch deep strike, which is now going to have to be Farsight Squad, which only has 6 Melta shots, which makes it very inconsistent. There's very good odds he's going to roll across his 6 shots. He's going to miss with 3 of them because he'll be hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s. And it doesn't take much for it to be 4 misses or 5 misses. We saw that with the Patrick game. His other squads are tagged. His Plasma Squad wounds the Stormraven on 6s. He makes the decision that it's not worth it. I've got to play another game, and Kyle decides to concede at this point. I appreciate Kyle for the time he gave me for the round, but this was a complete shellacking. I think Kyle described it really well when he did his kind of report on it for Pure Type program. And I'll shout out to Kyle because he does great tag content if you're looking for like inspirational and well done. Massive shout out to Kyle for going top 16 at LVO last weekend. He said that in this list, outboard controls me and it outshoots me. And it went first in Terraform. And it took away all of my advantages, and I think that's 100% accurate. And I believe Kyle ended up taking a version with triple Riptide to LVO because it had a bit more of that staying power that this list was a little bit lacking. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting game on like a technical standpoint. Like the first like 25 minutes of this game where we were deploying and chess matching and thinking about it were really interesting, but the damage just broke in a way that Kyle could not sustain, and I was able to get on top of him with a bunch of stuff in a way that he couldn't deal with. And like he could have flipped my home objective 100%. All I had on it was a storm speeder, but this is Terraform. It's all about the middle objectives, and he was about to lose his own objective as well. And it was kind of like a case of he could have killed Guilliman and Calgar and the Stormraven that turn, and he still wouldn't have been able to kill the 3 Redemptors, and then he would have lost the game to those. So it was this list creates such a difficult question for your opponent that I really, really appreciated. Okay, now we get on to game 7. This is the first of the stream games. This was Ben Jones's Aspect Host. This version is very similar. He had the Asserman Falcon. That's the only thing that's not dropped here. It goes down in this area. And he had a little bit more. He had like a 10-man squad of Swooping Hawks. But broadly, this was the same kind of concept. Now, this was one of those games where I went first, and what I'm going to do for this one is I'm actually going to just change the tab over to the stream. That should be visible now. So yeah, we played this one on the UKTC stream. Let me see what the best version of this is for that. So yeah, shout out to the UKTC for having 2 stream tables. Unfortunately, we were on one of the ones that didn't have commentary, so I actually can't see the live chat replay. I really enjoyed leading the live chat from Stream Games that I was on, is one of the benefits, and not having one was actually a little bit sad. So I want to shout that as a thing UKTC could improve on, is letting people see the chat. Okay, so this is Purge the Foe against Eldar, which is generally, I think, probably to my advantage. I am generally pretty good at killing things, and my ability to hold objectives is one of the weaker parts of this army, and I don't actually have to do that in this mission. I just have to kill him off them. If I can kill more and hold 1 and stop him getting hold more, I will continually increment by 4 points on primary. And one of the things of this game that kind of came up was that I was not paying enough attention to the scoreboard while I was on stream, and I actually almost threw this game on turn 5. And I want to shout out to Ben for putting himself in a position to almost have capitalized on that and playing really well on that last turn to almost put himself in a winning position. But I got bailed out by hitting a charge. So which I didn't even know was potentially game winning. I just was kind of like, yeah, cool, I won this game on like turn 3, and then I realized on turn 5 that I was like, oh no, oh god, no. But that was actually by a couple of mistakes that I made on turn 4. So we'll talk about this really quickly. So general characteristic of this game is that Ben deploys pretty sort of like generally conservatively. I take first turn. I scout these guys forward because I want to be able to threaten to like advance to this building and see Jane's are. So they scout the full 6 inches forward up to the edge of this building. Stormraven's deployed as offensively as it can be, and then I have like a hammer strike and a blister, kind of the same idea, right? If he wants to get Fuegan Squad in melter range to reliably kill them, he's going to come out to here, which is not going to be able to get sucked back into the wave surfer or the transport, and then I just kind of push the rest up the side. You'll notice that I am quite weak on this top side. I end up having to let him sit on this objective, which is fine because it's hold 1, hold more, right? As long as I hold this objective, it's totally okay. But I definitely had to concede to this top objective because I just don't have a great way to get through that building without committing Guilliman or Calgar, which I don't really want to do. We have Guilliman down here, and I believe my lone up lieutenant is like in this corner building. So yeah, my turn 1 is more or less just like staging up the Stormraven, just putting it in a position to go next turn. I stage up this guy, I stage up this Redemptor Dreadnought, and just pushing a little bit up. I oath these guys, I shoot them from downrange and across range to make sure I get my kill on turn 1. And they get picked up, and that's more or less it, right? Like I think my lone up lieutenant comes out of this building, charges these guys, consolidates back to behind that wall, and is just like generally being bothersome on that side. The incursors I have this screen up here so that with the incursor squad, so that the fire dragons can't just push straight through and like stand on this building and shoot into this, right? Because I don't want him to be able to like completely overwhelm me. From my game against Luke, I found that was a little bit annoying. One thing that I will say here that was a small mistake is that Guilliman should definitely have been here instead of here. Guilliman's just a little bit too far over to the side. He's trying to like be able to threaten this objective, but he definitely should have been a little closer to the edge, just like here, so that I would have had a heroic to anything that charged into the Stormraven. Because that ended up being what happened this game is that Ben throws his melee unit forward. You can see these ruins flexing every time we bend over. So what ended up happening is he pushed his Jane's Arbrick out at me. I reactive moved these incursors to be within 3 of the Jane's Arbrick so that I could pop the Haywire Mine on them to just try to like start chipping some damage away at them, which ended up being a play that I made like a bunch of times across this tournament. I think I ended up waiting for it to happen a while. Ben makes the decision to commit his Fire Dragon Brick up the top, and it's going to go and play this upper side here. Instead of trying to engage in the mid board, it's just not going to play the fight with me at all. Which I think is actually probably quite smart. It just like it gets it away. I can probably deal with this, but he can like disembark the Fire Dragons into this crease here, make it really hard. They're 100% going to kill this thing. I'm not even going to use any defensive stratagems. And he's able to kind of like he tries to pin me in a little bit, blocks Guilliman from coming up this way with these guys with the advance, blocks this guy from just getting around the side. I think there's like a lot of merit in what Ben's doing here, right? This Swooping Hawk Squad pushes down to start chipping some damage on here. And I think we measured out some advances for like this squad coming out of the building and things like that. Lycus pushes up to the edge of this building, and it's all all very much of a muchness, right? He's definitely putting himself in a position to apply a bunch of pressure. He's going to go for the tag on the Stormraven with these guys into this. I'm not going to be able to overwatch them because he'll no overwatch them. He takes some damage from the Haywire Mine. He does some chip shooting. He ends up picking up my Lone Lieutenant with the blaster. The Fire Dragons shoot here and then jump back into transport. And then I think the rest of his shooting, I can't remember if he actually killed this land speeder. He does. I feel like Janezar killed this land speeder. I was definitely a little upset that this speeder died. I didn't think this was going to die because it was I think it was the Bright Lance from the Wave Serpent plus Janezar plus this Hawk Squad took it down, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a little disappointing, but c'est la vie. Ben gets the tag in here, starts putting some damage on. I'm able to start working on this, and then in order to block the heroic from the Incursor Squad, he charges me with these guys, the Voice Guard, and then there's not really a great place for Guilliman to land, so I just don't charge. And then we kind of continue the trade back and forth. I poke and prod, I kill, I kill him a little bit, kill him down to like kill like 1 Voice Guard, but I'm able to fall back, and then Calgar disembarks out of this, and this Redemptor Dreadnought moves back to see these War Spiders, and then the third Redemptor Dreadnought disembarks from the Stormraven and comes out this way, and I fall back with the Stormraven, and these intercessors walk out the building to just see Janezar Squad. So I'm able to kind of connect a bunch of stuff. I believe my oaths this turn were this Wave Serpent was oath 1, and Lycus' squad was oath 2. The reason being that I was like, if Caligar can hit a big enough advance to like sling into these guys and potentially the Falcon, I can like end the game this turn by killing Lycus because I can remove all of Ben's threat on my backfield. And that ends up working out. I believe the goddamn Wave Serpent didn't die. I shot 2 Ballistic Dreadnoughts at 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts at it with max damage output, and I think I handed Ben like 10 5-up invulnerable saves, and it didn't die, or like 7, 8 5 invulnerable saves from the plasma cannons, and it didn't die. I was so disappointed. It just kept living. It was like, oh my god, what is going on? So I think it ended up living at 2 wounds, which does a good job of like stopping it from Star Engines and going forward, right? It kind of has to know Overwatch if it wants to move through the midboard now, which is fine. And then Calgar's squad, the Incursors charge in and tag a couple of the basing spots on this unit. And then Calgar squad is able to use its big old models to swing, filling the basing positions here with the non-punchy guys, and then the rest of the squad's able to get into Lycus, and I'm able to use that fact then to have Calgar and his big ass 50 mil base tag these Swooping Hawks that are against the wall because Ben wanted to be as far forward as possible. And I think that ended up being, for me, that was the game-winning play. That was the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've won this game. Because now his biggest shooting threat that's remaining, besides the Fire Dragons, is tagged up. He's got like 1 War Spider squad, but his damage is severely diminished from here. You can see kind of like I managed to pop Lycus' squad. I'm able to kill the Swooping Hawks. I'm kind of not really presenting him a ton of stuff. Like the Fire Dragon squad can come this way and not really do anything, or he can go after this Redemptor Dreadnought, which is what he ends up doing. I've still got Guilliman waiting in the wings. I didn't really feel the need to use him last turn, so Guilliman could potentially go up and deal with this guy, like threaten to show up that way or go across the center. I've still got my home objective locked down, and the side here is like I've got a Redemptor ready to walk onto it, so I'm like in a pretty good position. I would have liked this Redemptor to be on this objective. That was the only thing I wasn't super happy about. But in order to get the line of sight on the Hawks, it had to be off it. And the Stormraven would have liked to have been in the game, but I was very conscious that I didn't want it to get taken out by the Fire Dragons. we kind of skip through this turn. The Swooping Hawks in this building move block Calgar from reactive moving. The Swooping Hawks in this building come out. The War Spider stand still. And Ben's able to hurt but not kill Guilliman's squad. I think he puts Calgar down to 1 wound with like the full everything, and then charges me with Osterman, and then Osterman dies. And that was the point where I was like, okay, this is like I'm no longer there's no longer much chance of me getting scammed this game either, because Osterman just died. And I feel pretty comfortable about like having the strong board position. You see there, he loses the fight, and then I'm able to kind of walk Calgar at his home objective. And then yeah, he's holding 2. I'm holding 1, so I'm actually still only getting hold 1s, but I'm very comfortably getting like kill more as I start getting my defense stronghold. And then the biggest thing that was actually a problem this game, I forgot to draw my secondary cards on turn 3, which is just a terrible idea. So I just forgot to draw secondary cards, and I went for the full push. And I did not draw cards. I drew cards at the end of the turn, and then realized that I didn't have anything on the middle objective, so I didn't get Secure No Man's Land, which definitely I could have had. I did not have, and I didn't have anything that could recover assets, right? My Intercessor squad had gotten into the Storm Raven. I could have just left them there and done recover assets with Redemptor. Like, I definitely could have done things at this game, but I just didn't. I just did not, because I hadn't drawn the cards. And I wasn't going to go back in round 7 of a Super Major, be like, hey, buddy, I forgot to draw cards. Do you mind if I change what I did? Like, that's just not happening. That was on me. I 100% should have redrawn I would have redrawn the recover assets this turn, but I didn't. And that ended up putting me in a position where being like, okay, my secondaries are a little sketchier than I thought they were. I've not actually managed to deal, like I killed the Wave Serpent, but I've not dealt with the Fire Dragon squad, and I've started working on his home objective, which is great. I'm trying to give him, like, trying to reduce his primary down. Like, the Fire Dragon squad can't really meaningfully impact the game from here. But Ben keeps drawing, like, perfectly scoreable cards, right? Engaging all fronts and overwhelming force. And then, you know, he's still getting his primary from here. I get my aerodynamics and battle lines that turn. It's great. It's really solid. Display of my assassination. So this is the point where I almost threw the game for myself. I'm up 22 points right now, which is great. I just got a hold more, and my assassination is going to give me 5 in primary. But I actually didn't realize that kill more wasn't going to score me any more additional points. I was at 48 primary already at this point, so getting kill 1 would get me 2 instead of 4, and getting kill more wouldn't matter at all. So killing one of these units would have been great, but it wouldn't have actually made a huge difference. And if Ben gets hold 1, hold more, or hold 1, kill more, he'll get 12 points here, pushing him to 69. And then if he had gotten 2 scoreable cards for 5 points of 5 points, he would have very, very potentially have been in a position to tie the game here. And I don't know what the tiebreaker was. So yeah, we kind of go from here. Like, you can see that I ended up hitting the charge and getting the assassination and getting the kill on Fuegan, and then Ben draws into some very scoreable cards in the form of assassination and Mark for Death, which he gets 5 points on. But if he had had 8 more points here, and I had 6 less and 5 less on assassination, well, I would have had 2 less on primary and 5 less on assassination. I believe I would have been at 79, and Ben would have gained 4 more points for Killmore, which would have put it at, I believe, 76, 79. And then it would have only taken this being a 5-point card, and I would have potentially drawn this game and then lost. So this was really, really sketchy endgame that I didn't need to be. I think if I had just, and part of that was because I overzealously killed on turn 4. I should have left like 1 guy alive from 1 squad that I could chase down. Ben would have then like potentially tried to charge him into something to die or something like that, but that's not a guarantee. Potentially I could have left like a 5 of Swooping Hawks. Like, I was getting hold more anyway, or I was capping and I needed to make sure I had an option for a kill secondary. Or I needed to play cleverer around how I tried to catch Fuegan. Like, potentially this Redemptor Dreadnought needed to advance up around here to be able to cap. Because what ended up happening was I shot the Fuegan brick on this objective, and it reacted, moved further away from me. And then I had to hit a 9-inch charge with Calgar to get into it, and then precision him out with Calgar to get the guaranteed kill for the assassination. I think it was really, really sketchy, and it didn't need to be. But overall, I think this game kind of played out exactly the way we drew it up. I have so much ability to kill the stuff that is not Asserman, or to kill stuff in his army, and the stuff that is not exactly Fuegan really struggles to kill anything in my army. I think the Storm Raven's still at like 4 health. These Redemptors are both at full. I've still got full health Guilliman on his home objective, and Calgar and the Victor's Guard on his home objective as well, and then end up over here. And like, he activated a War Spider squad, Asserman on his best day ever in shooting and combat, 15 Swooping Hawks drive by, a squad of Swooping Hawks shooting, and didn't kill the Calgar brick. And that was like on the turn I presented him everything. He obviously got the 1 Redemptor in the middle. Can't do anything about that, right? Fuegan's going to kill his thing. But Fuegan ended up stranded just kind of in no man's land because of it. So yeah, overall, really interesting game. It was great to play Ben. Ben is an absolute gentleman. One of the probably the best player in Vanguard Tactics. I'm going to give him that one. He deserves it. And it's been wonderful to play him every time I've ever played against him. And yeah, it was great to get the chance. It was great to do it on stream as well. Okay, so that puts us into round 8. We are now playing against Chris Langton on his Big Boy Demons. This is another one of those games that's just like, man, this was great. Chris was the number 1 seed coming out of the Swiss portion. He went 5-0 with, I believe, dropping 11 points in 5 games. So he was the number 1 seed. He played Olivier Weiss on his Shadow McTalon, the captain of Team France, and beat him quite soundly, I think 99-40 or something like that. So 20-0 the captain of Team France, which, like, how often do you get to say you do that? So yeah, super impressive for Chris. He ended up getting the bye in round 6 and round 7 as the number 1 seed. So was definitely not expecting a walkover here, but I also don't respect Big Boy Demons. Just categorically, I refuse. Every time I've played against them, it's always been a really interesting and really tight game. But even still, I always just think that, surely you just beat Demons, right? Now, what's the problem with this game? Well, it's Hidden Supplies again. When all the same things that happened in that last game I played on Hidden Supplies occur here as well. You don't get any points for holding your home objective, and the midfield is a nightmare. And he's playing Big Demons. Big Demons are good at one thing, and that's standing on goddamn objectives. They have sticky, they have teleport, all that kind of stuff. And my list has no screens. So my plan this game is to force feed him just enough vehicles to make him have to do something while maintaining my major threat from the Stormraven Golem counter. If I can keep the Stormraven alive through the late game, it will mostly kill your air demon every time it activates. And then Golem and Calgar should be able to finish them off with like whatever chip shooting. My backfield is nickel and dime screened with like intercessor squad holding the backfield. I've got like my cursor squad in the middle here, my lone up lieutenants over here to kind of like keep holding this side. And my goal is to just try to like lock down this side objective here with a Redemptor Dreadnought 2 as quickly as I can. And then just stop him from holding the middle, right? Like I've got all my threat in the center, so that if he tries to walk out Big Boy, I can connect 2,000 points of space marines to it. Big Boy's durable; he's not that durable. Solomon does still wound him on 2s. And like yes, he might block some of that damage, but we're gonna give it our best shot. I ended up marking this objective for my lone up lieutenant rerolls, which actually made it quite hard for him to like willingly stand on it as well, because so much of my damage gets just a lot better with reroll 1s, and it really pushes him over the threshold. I did get the benefit of going second this game. Going first against Big Demons is always a little sketchy because you have to go and start taking agency pretty fast, and I don't really want to do that. We see here, I'm playing Assassination Bring It Down because I just know that I can kind of attrition this game out. I don't want to have to do secondaries. My army doesn't have a ton of stuff. I'd like to be able to just focus on screening, and playing fixed lets me do that, right? I can just concentrate on screening, and killing. And that's what I want to do. My goal is to just rip through Chris's small stuff as quickly as I can, and then start focusing on the big things. If I can kill one big thing a turn, I'll be pretty happy. That'll get me my 30, 35-ish on secondaries. And if I can match him on primary and get 15 on the last, 15 on the bottom, that should win me the game, right? That's kind of my thought process. I'm not playing for a big win here. I'm playing for a controlled win to the best of my ability against Big Demons, because you just never know when they'll fail on vulnerable saves. So Chris goes first. He pokes out like a Beast of Nurgle onto the middle objective to do an action, to do a secondary card, I believe. Yeah, he pokes this guy out. And then that's kind of it, right? Like he can't really get a ton of OC on the side objective. He can't really get there on turn 1 anyway. So yeah, he pokes a Beast of Nurgle out to do like establish locus. He discards no prisoners. I poke up here to shoot the Beast of Nurgle. I screen, so like his 16 sheep will land here. This stuff is all outside 12 of his charge point, so that he can't connect charge ability. This is all an inch off the wall, and then I shoot him. And then if he wants to drop in to shoot this guy, like he can do it. He's positioned so that Kairos has to come like real close to the wall so that I have an easier charge into him if he wants to shoot me with his indirect. And then this guy is poked up a little bit to just like cover the edge of this objective, or to cover like shooting this angle. This guy ends up being a little too far forward. He ends up being in shadow of the chaos. I wish he had been a little further back. Like if he had been here, he would have had the same shooting angle and screened all the same positions, but wouldn't have been taking Battleshock test at -1 once he took damage, which actually did end up coming up. Chris goes for the play here of teleporting. And one thing I do this game, my second oath basically always goes on the biggest demon in the board that I'm not planning on, just so that I have the ability to overwatch it. So in this case, it was on Scarbrand in case he wanted to like deep strike him and throw a 6-inch charge. I was able to kind of like use that pressure to keep him at bay. So what Chris ends up doing, let's see if we can find the specific moment. So Chris drops Be'lakor and the Lord of Change and 10 Plague Bearers back here. 10 Plague Bearers are a pain in my ass. Not gonna lie, just this is a really annoying place for him to have plate bearers. I'm just kind of gonna have to let these guys have this objective. But he drops Be'lakor and the Lord of Change here. Kairos does some indirect into these guys. His flamers drop in here. I armor of contempt this guy. I believe I minus one to hit and wounded this guy, so he didn't die. Went down to 2 wounds. And then yeah, we just kind of keep the screen up here. This guy's in a slightly awkward position. He should have been a little further to the left to make sure that Scarbrand's base didn't fit through this gap. Because when I ended up developing this Redemptor Dreadnought, or sorry, it's not from this turn. So yeah, he ends up shooting this guy, doesn't quite kill him. He shoots this guy, doesn't quite kill him. Doesn't really get much of anything. He does his recover assets. He does his area denial for small, and I'm able to kind of yeah. So my response turn, I push the Storm Raven up this way. I disembark a Redemptor Dreadnought. The other Redemptor Dreadnought advances and charges up to here, charges the Plague Bearers. I don't kill them, so he does keep the objective. I contest this objective because he can only get 3 OC of Flesh Hounds on it. I contest it with this guy. This guy's in an awkward position. This guy should have been further up so that Scarbrand couldn't go through this gap with the Rapid Ingress, because Scarbrand would have only been able to Rapid Ingress like here or here or here. But because he's able to Rapid Ingress here with his advanced charge, he comes out to like here and ends up having like a 6-inch charge into this Redemptor Dreadnought, which is closer than I would have liked. So he combines that with Be'lakor dropping in. So this guy was definitely mispositioned. He should have been parallel to the board edge rather than at a 45-degree angle so that he couldn't go through the gap. That was definitely a mistake. I don't have a great way to kill this squad of 10 Plague Bearers. Like, it's 10 OC, or it's 20 OC, and I only really have small. So I'm just going to work on this over time. So I end up charging the Redemptor Dreadnought into it, doing a bunch of damage to it, making him come out, and then just like work on this over turns. This is the turn that he gets a 5, or the first turn that he gets a 5 on. I had ended up getting a 5 off of this objective here. Was this the turn I got a 5? Maybe not. I think we both got 0s on turn 2, and then we both got 5s this turn. I think he ended up not having anything to deal with my. Yeah, he ended up not having anything to do with this guy this turn because I had killed almost all of his small stuff except these Plague Bearers. Yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, this turn, Be'lakor drops down here, Scarbrand comes around here for the advancing charge. But he's kind of out of ability to deal with the Redemptor Dreadnoughts besides charging them because the Lord of Change is dead, right? That's why I prioritize it. It's the only one that's really threatening and shooting with the +1 AP and all that kind of stuff. It's the one that's the best at killing my vehicles. So getting rid of that one was the priority. I want to make him come to me. If he wants to charge into this Redemptor Dreadnought, he's going to be in Gollum charge range. He's potentially going to be in Calgar, like deep strike range. If he comes out onto this one, he's in Calgar charge range, right? So I'm kind of keeping this kind of crest here. If he wants to connect to this guy, that's fine. Anything else, I have responses. And I'm kind of conceding that top left objective will be his eventually, because he can stick it with the Flash Hounds and whatnot. So this turn, we don't see a ton of movement. Let's see if I can skip to a point where something happens. Yeah. So this ended up being like an awkward position where this guy kind of had to advance to get out of the building. He just didn't have any great ways to get on the objective without advancing. Yeah. So I ended up overwatching and putting like 5 damage on Scarbrand in Chris's turn. I'm able to hold this objective with the Lone Up Lieutenant. I start working on these Plague Bearers. I'm like, this guy then falls back. This guy walks up, shoots them. They both charge in. That clears this objective and puts it to the point where like I'm pretty reliably holding this one now. And then for my turn, I shoot Scarbrand to death. I accept that he's getting a 10, right? He's going to hold these 2 objectives. I'm holding these 2 objectives. Fine, he can have a 10, right? That's the first 10. That's him now scored 15 primary. I can live with that. I'm going to get a 15 at the end, and I've just gotten a 5. So I'm expecting to be. At this point, he's on 15. I'm on 5. I'm expecting to get 15 at the end. So, and if I can keep him to 5 for the rest of the game, that puts us at parity on primary. He's going to get 25. I'm going to get 20. Like, that's fine. I'm expecting my secondary score to be much better. He had double zeros a couple turns, and I just continually racking up, bringing down assassination points at this point. So that's totally fine. I ended up disembarking the Calgar squad just to shoot Scarbrand, just to make sure he died. And then they ended up getting to shoot the Be'lakor because the Storm Raven more or less one-shot him, which was super nice. Gulliman debated throwing the charge into Be'lakor and decided not to. We're not psychopaths. And then Be'lakor leaves. Be'lakor decides that this is not a combat he wants to take part in. The Calgar Brick is fully screening him for charging the Storm Raven because he can't get into engagement range with the bases in way, and he doesn't want to just charge Gulliman and then get charged by Calgar and die in his own turn because that will probably put the game over. So he teleports over here, goes for one of the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, ends up killing it. The Great and Clean one goes onto the next objective, ends up leaving this one. This objective is now sticky and comfortably held by these Flash Hounds. And he's, again, just kind of like chasing his secondaries, trying to get what he can. He's got Storm Hostile engaging on fronts here. Totally reasonable. He's able to get like most of his cards. Be'lakor hits the charge. Chris did never miss a 6-inch charge this game, which is fair enough. I felt like he never passed the multi-melt to save. I'll certainly take that as the arrangement. It was not too bad. So yeah, Be'lakor gets into that top objective. He gets Overwatch, drops into like 12 health. And then this is the hard commit turn, right? This is the everything has to go. We must kill. So I end up ignoring this objective. Again, he can have his 5s. I'm okay with him getting 5s. The Intercessor Squad pops out, pops sustained hits, shoots Be'lakor. The Stormraven shoots Be'lakor. This stuff all shoots Be'lakor. And we drop Be'lakor to the shooting, right? This guy stays in combat and shoots him, and we are able to drop Be'lakor, which then transfers both over to the Great and Clean one, and then everything charges the Great and Clean one. I'm able to, including the Stormraven, which tank shocks him for 4 damage, which he fails the Feel No Pains on. Guilliman tags him, he's still on this objective. Calgar Squad all goes onto this objective, so I get 6 OC on it with the banner, and I kill Be'lakor, and I'm able to hold this objective with, I kill enough of these Plague Marines with the guy charging in, and with that I'm able to stop him holding this objective, and at that point I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the game. I've just killed the third Great Demon in 3 turns of shooting. I've chunked the Great Demon down to 7, and he doesn't have a ton of stuff left to play with. God, Chris's army's so nice looking. Yeah, maybe he hits a 10 this turn. I think I killed enough of the Plague Bearers, and he felt the Battle Shock and wasn't able to res enough onto the objective that I was able to hold that objective off him. But maybe he got a 10. It looks like he did get a 10 this turn. Yeah, it looks like he did hold this objective. I wasn't able to quite flip this one off him, which was definitely like the sketchier part of this game. Was like him getting this 10 was 1 tick of primary more than I was comfortable with. But that's fine. He picks up Kairos. He picks up the Flesh Hounds, and they go for my home objective. This is now on Chris's turn 5. He's pretty comfortably ahead. He's got not great cards. He goes for Overwhelming Force on the Intercessors on my home objective. His Flesh Hounds end up hitting the charge onto it, and the Great and Clean one dies in combat in his turn, and then I have an uncontested turn 5 with him having very little agency left, I believe, is kind of the end state of this game. Let's see if I can find that specific point. Yeah, so Kairos drops in behind here, behind the dice tray picture. They are able to shoot and charge off my home objective, but I'm able to kill because he got a 10 this turn, but this is the last turn of scoring that he's going to get this game. I'm able to kill the Green Clean one in his turn. He charges in with the Nurglings, but hitting on 3s, rolling into the Green Clean one, and then winning on 2s means it still dies. And then the Stormraven is able to fly off and go and kill Kairos in his turn. And then the Calgar Brick advance and charges backwards into this building. And then Guilliman sits on this objective. I have this objective, and then I have the Calgar Squad chains across these 3 objectives to have both of them. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so I get my 15 at the end. And then I was able to kill Kairos for the extra last tick of points. We did forget about the Vector on the last turn, so if you watch the VOD, I think I spent 1 extra CP than I had. But I think it would have been fine because he died to the tank shock, and all I did was command reroll a wound roll on a missile. But yeah, maybe Kairos would have lived and I would have dropped 2 assassinate points. But c'est la vie. Sorry, if my opponent forgets his Vectora and I forget his Vectora, it's really difficult to remember that you're in a Vectora. But yeah, overall, really interesting game. Going second helped a ton. I would have had to shove a lot harder if I had gone first. But it definitely put me in a really good position. And I was very happy with getting that game as my round 8. Chris was an absolute gentleman to play. It was the first time I'd met him, let alone played him. And it was super awesome to play against another like brand new, really top level UK player. Okay, the last game that I played at the LGT was against Alexander Sacco and his Space Marines, or my Space Marines against his Drukhari. God, I hate Fire and Fade. Fire and Fade is a bane on the game, and I cannot stand it. And I'm only saying that because Sacco won, and I hate Drukhari. This has been my year of losing to Drukhari and French people, and this was a French Drukhari player. So what chance did I have? What can one man do against such reckless hate? Okay, so how does this game play out? Well, we're playing Linchpin, which means home objectives are very important. And Sacco has a lot of stuff. He has a Drazar Venom in reserve. He's got his 3 squads of Scourges. 3 is not traditional. 2 is traditional. I would have much preferred to play against that. So he's got 1 squad of Scourges here, 1 squad of Scourges here, another squad of Scourges here. They're all nice and hidden. He's got his Lilith boat. He's got his scouting Harlequin boat. He's got Mandrakes all over the place. And yeah, Sacco's a really good player. He knows exactly what he's doing with this stuff. There's a reason he's won World WTC twice in a row. So Sacco takes first turn. He decides to have a very, very defensive turn. He scouts forward and then pulls backwards. He pokes a Mandrake squad onto this objective. and kind of just calls it a day there. He doesn't really feel the need to do anything super aggressive because there's nothing super aggressive to do. He develops his Hellion squad into this building and just takes himself nice and forward, right? He just doesn't do anything crazy. So my turn one, I need to deal with Urian on the middle. I need to deal with one of these side objectives. I can't let him have a 15, or I can't let him have a 13 on primary or a 15 on primary if Urian's there. So this squad walks onto the middle objective. I pull down a bunch of shooting to start threatening, and I'm able to, across my shooting, I am able to pick up Urian, who doesn't stand up, but I'm not quite able to kill. And the combat lieutenant here is able to kill this witch squad with grenade and charging and shooting, and then consolidate back behind the wall. But I'm not able to kill two of these mandrakes. I was only able to kill one of them, I believe, with the Redemptor's plasma at long range. I just I had the two guys here that could see and the one Redemptor, and just the way the damage worked out, I had to put more into Urian, and was not able to kill two. I could only kill one mandrake. I couldn't kill four. I couldn't kill two to contest the objective with the storm speeder. So Sako gets an 8 this turn, which is definitely the start of the problems here. Cards were fine on both our fronts, right? I get 2 and 3 on engage recover. He gets 5 and 2 on cleanse and engage. Nothing too disappointing. Sako then pushes out with everything, right? So he brings out his melee squad of Harlequins to go this way, pushes the Void Reaver up here to get back into it to lock down the side objective. His Hellion squad comes out here to charge into this guy and then tag into the Storm Raven. Again, Gulliman is in just slightly the wrong spot. He should probably be here to just have the ability to heroic if he charges into certain things, or to just stop him from tagging the Storm Raven. Because what ends up happening is the same thing that happened last time. The Storm Raven gets exceedingly tagged this game. The Haywire Scourges, they're all able to clip a line on this guy. Definitely think I could have played this guy differently. I should have pushed him a little further in to just cut the angle through here a little bit better to make him come a little more exposed. But then he would have had the option of going down this way. I'm not sure. Playing around the Haywire Scourges is really tough for this army. I don't have any way to screen them, and I can't really chase them into this building. This building has got a Court of the Archon and a million little shaft units inside it. It's hard to find purchase on it. Lilith squad comes out to charge into these guys. I pop the Haywire Man on the Venom and don't kill it. It's a 1 in 9. I wasn't expecting to, but it would have been really nice. These guys are able to kill this. He's able to pick up this Dreadnought. The Haywire Scourges do max damage to me. They just one tap it. The expected value is 8 damage. 8 damage. It's a 19% chance to kill. One tap me with overkill damage. I was heartbroken. I think he wounded me 7 times on 4s on his 8 shots. Just good old classic Dark Elf stuff. Not that I want to bitch about dice. I got very lucky in some parts of this game, so I don't want to. But Haywire popped off and he was able to spread some damage out a little bit more aggressively than I was comfortable with. And then his Vector pushed up to the center, preventing Gulliman's heroic, which again was one of the problems of just being CP starved this game. I almost wish I had not done my recover on turn 1 so that I had an extra CP to make sure that I could heroic with Gulliman. That's one of those positions that you're I'm not sure if that was a mistake, but it certainly didn't work. So this Hellion squad charges in and tags just everything in my deployment zone. Yeah, so he tags the Storm Speeder and the Redemptor. He doesn't actually tag the Storm Raven, but he tags up this stuff and pins me in a lot. And then this Redemptor died. There's still a Redemptor inside the Storm Raven, and my backfield is not very screened. Right. Remember, there's a Venom in reserve with Drazar in it, and I have nothing in this top left corner anymore, so I don't really have any way to stop him rapid ingressing up here. So I make the decision at this point that I need to full send, right? I just got to go. I don't have time to wait anymore, so we're going to push. So I push the Storm Raven over. I push so that I can get line of sight on as much stuff as I can. I disembark the Redemptor Dreadnought after it moves to tap this objective to make sure I've got the OC on it to deal with these racks. And I push Gulliman and Calgar out. I'm going to try to shoot this thing, charge Lilith, and then slingshot in here. The goal, ideally, is that this Scourge squad should be dead. This Kronos should be dead. And what I want to have happen is I want to charge in with Calgar or Gulliman to here and stand at this side of the objective. I'm going to charge the Kronos and the Scourge so that I can fight the Kronos, who is my secondary oath target, but then be in combat with the Scourges, and then use the distance, the fact that I only have to be in base contact with the Scourges, to open up a gap that Gulliman and friends can stand in this position and then charge in. But I end up rolling a charge that doesn't quite let that happen, and I don't get enough in, so I don't end up piling into the Core of the Archon. I'm able to kill this Void Reaver just about. I think it took more damage than I was expecting it to, so I ended up not being able to shoot some stuff. And then he rapid ingresses his Drazar Drazar Venom back here, and this is kind of the herald of, oh god, this is going to be a problem. I think there's a world I'm potentially meant to like I ended up leaving this guy in combat to shoot these guys and these guys to shoot these guys. I think that maybe like I should have fallen both of them back onto my home objective and just had them both there and then just like shot this Hellion squad or maybe charged it back with the Redemptor, just like something else. There was definitely a better way to handle this Hellion squad because I just left it there and it just never quite died. But I definitely could have had more guns going into it if I had really tried. I think I'm not 100% sure. I ended up charging his solitaire that was against this wall and tank shocking him to death because he had the Stormraven on the upper floor of a building, and I was able to use the nose of the Stormraven to tank shock him, which was quite funny. He was using the Stormraven to block me from filling the spaces efficiently because I couldn't go within 1 inch of him. But well, that means I can charge him, right? So he was definitely not expecting that, which was a fun little moment. But again, I can't clear this objective, right? It had a unit inside it. It's got these mandrakes on it, just it's not happening. And I've pushed the center area. And I've not dealt with this home objective. I'm not really scoring my primary, right? Like I'm getting my cards, I got my display, I got my little prisoners. I'm able to deal with some of this stuff, but this Hellion squad is still tagging a bunch of stuff in the middle. It's just continually wearing out some damage on this hammer strike, right? It took like 6 the first time, then 4 the second time, and then 2, and then died, right? It died to these Hellions just over the course of like 4 turns of combat because I just couldn't quite clear them. And then we have this absolute cluster combat in the middle where everything charges into the Calgar Gulliman brick, and he doesn't quite kill any of it. I think he puts Gulliman down to 3 and Calgar down to 1 because Calgar just refuses to feel no pains. But he does flip my home objective. I'm not able to hold this one because the Rax will see me. He charges the combat lieutenant but doesn't quite kill him. God, look at me. I'm not even slightly balding yet. It's great. But this Hellion squad is still just stuck here. And now I'm stuck in combat with it. I end up like fighting back and I'm able to clear out of this combat. My fallbacks are a little bit awkward, but there's this one Mandrake here, which ends up being a really nice little piece. The Redemptor goes backwards, is able to charge into Drazar's squad and deny him the objective. I was able to I failed my battle shock, but I didn't take that much damage back because Drazar's good in combat, but not that good in combat. My tank shock low rolled a little bit. I only did a damage to the Clavex, but it's c'est la vie. I was able to kill 3 of them in combat and hold the objective. I've got this objective, so he's still just getting 8s, right? Like he's not getting more, and that's fine. What I'm able to pull off this turn is because the Court of the Archon was quite spread out across this thing, the Stormraven's able to shoot in combat into the Court of the Archon and do some damage. I think I killed like 4 or 5 of the Cabalites and like a little bit extra. And then he doesn't have any CP because he did the reactive move. So what I'm able to do is Gulliman and Calgar both charge this Mandrake. And then, because he can't heroic now, he doesn't have fight first when I pile into him. So I'm able to kill this Mandrake with Calgar. And then Gulliman is able to consolidate or pile into the Court of the Archon because I'm within 3 of it, and then kill it down to just the Archon. I believe, and again, this is one of those moments where I'm going to complain about dice. I'm not really complaining about dice. I'm just like, this is what happened, is that I handed him, I think, 11 wounds and 2 devastating wounds. And the Court of the Archon, with its 5 invulnerable save, passed 5 of the first 8. So I killed. So he died to the wound just before the dev wounds happened, and they didn't go into the Archon. If he had failed 2 more of his 5 or 6 invulnerable saves, or he had taken a little bit more damage from the Stormraven, which Sako did a really good job of react moving to get out of line of sight to give him more of his guys cover, stuff like that. Right? Like he played it well to put himself in that position to give himself the chance. But if that Archon had died, I think I win this game. I think there's a very good chance I could have won this game, but I don't actually know how likely it was for that to happen. He reacted, moved off the objective to get rid of my Lone Up Lieutenant rerolls. So like there was a lot going in Sokka's favor here. Like he played it very well to make sure that didn't happen. And then I just keep taking repetitive chip damage from the Scourges. They just keep coming out and fire and fading back in and out of this building. They keep denying me off this objective, just like moving over. And like the Lone Up Lieutenant keeps coming out, killing a squad of 5 guys and going back in, killing 5 guys, going back in, just keeps doing it every turn. The Redemptor Dreadnought is able to kill him down to 1 Venom, 1 Incubi on Drazar. All pass a battle shot test, get me 3 primary on my home objective. So it's like the second primary I score this game because I got a 0 on the previous turn. The behind enemy lines cleanse turn was particularly grim. It was a 0-0 secondary turn. And again, the vector is just meaning I can't redraw, right? I just don't have time. And Sako just keeps running up his score on the scoreboard. I am very clearly tabling him, but it is not quite mattering. So he gets an 8 on this turn. He gets established locus behind enemy lines. The Venom's able to establish locus. He does his behind enemy lines because his home is sticky. On my turn 4, I have to make a decision. I pull assassination and area denial. And I had just gotten a 3. And we're kind of looking at the board state and like, I can give him a 0 this turn, right? Like I can keep this objective. The Redemptor just falls back and stands on the edge of it. That's 4 OC to his 3. Cool, he gets a 0 on that objective. This Lone Up Lieutenant can kill the 2 Scourges that are left from this Overwatch squad. Gulliman walks back the way and OC and unstickies this objective, and then he can charge back into the Archon, right? Like the Archon is right here. I think it's a 7-inch charge. This Stormraven drives up and is able to shoot and charge the mandrakes that are on this objective and finally get rid of them. So like I've cleared everything except like this charge squad, the stuff on my home objective, and this. And I'm like, okay, my Lord Lieutenant might still be alive at the last turn because he's going to kill these guys and consolidate back to the wall, so he might not die. I can get my 3 on that objective. I can get my 3 on this objective. I can put on Gulliman's plus OC aura to give the Stormraven OC to hold an objective with the Stormraven. I can get a 9 on the last turn. Maybe this Redemptor lives and I can get my home objective as well, right? Like it's definitely possible. It's at 2 and he's got Dev Wounds on Drazar. It's not likely, but it's possible, right? Like it could have kept me in the game. But then Gulliman failed his 7-inch charge back into the Archon. If I had rolled the charge just the right way, I would have been able to tap the Archon, kill him, and then consolidate onto the middle objective, getting the assassination and area denial. Because Gulliman's got his 14 tactical devastating wounds. It should kill the Archon. Doesn't always, but it should kill the Archon. But I failed the charge, so I ended up dropping another 0/0 turn into then Sako drawing. I believe Sako just draws perfect, right? He draws Storm Hostile Objective and Area Denial. I'm holding this objective. He's able to flip it. I'm holding this objective. He's able to flip it. And he Area Denials the middle. If he doesn't get that 5 there, he goes to 69 points. If I'm plus 10, like I get a really good, like I do my Assassination Area Denial turn 1. Gulliman, turn 5, Gulliman advances out and kills this. I get my 9. But it would have only taken him, if Sako drops the Area Denial, I get that 10 points a turn earlier. 1 more primary tick. Like if I reflip my home objective, it's plus 1. There is definitely a path here where hitting a charge a turn earlier, having one more thing go right, I definitely could have been in a winning position this game, which is great. That's exactly what I want out of a tournament. Like the last round of the biggest event in the world that I got to play, round 9, was a really, really interesting game against one of the best players on the planet. We had a fantastic game. Sako was a joy to play. I think I might have sounded a little bit salty in the stream because when I'm in a tougher game, I get a lot more compartmentalized, right? I stop making as many jokes. So apologies to Sako for not being as fun an opponent as I have been for some people. But also I can be a pain in the ass when I do that. So what do I know? But anyway, yeah, it was a really, really awesome tournament final. It was a great game to play against Sako. He played it fantastically. He played to all of his outs and got slowly tabled while winning the game, which is the Drukhari special, right? I was really happy with how well I cracked his Central Ruin. I was able to push in. I got very lucky with living with the Gulliman and Calgar and then having those tools to play within the late game, which was great. It's exactly what you want. But I had them and I got to use them. The Stormraven took over so much of this game. It was so impactful. I don't think I dealt with the Hellion squad as well as I could have. I definitely think I left a lot of equity on the table there. Sako mentioned to me that he thinks he misactivated in the combat on this center, that he should have started with the Harlequin squad into the Harlequin squad into me, but I'm broadly in agreement that it would have made a pretty big difference. But it might have meant that Gulliman got punched by the Court of the Archon instead, so it's impossible to say exactly what would have happened, but he ended up having like half of his Harlequin squad not fight, and then fighting into Gulliman, which just didn't do as much as they would have done if they were punching Calgar, because Calgar did live on 1 wound through his Feel No Pains. But maybe I passed all the 4 Feel No Pains, Sako, you'll never know. And I'll never know what my turn 5 cards could have been, right? It could have been Sabotage and Secure No Man's Land for a nice clean 10 points, puts me up to 59. If he had dropped 5 points down to 69, it doesn't take much from there. But no, really, really great game with Sako. Definitely came down to this 0/0 turn of the Behind Enemy Lines cards into the 0/0 Assassination Area Denial turn. There was just nothing I could do about that at that point. And again, that's kind of the fault of this army, right? It does not have secondary pieces. So maybe there's a world I was meant to play fixed here. Like if I play Engage on all fronts and Storm Hostile, like, I don't know, man. You start chasing your tail real hard on that one, right? But overall, really, really cool game. Really, really interesting. Let's finish off by really quickly touching on my closing thoughts from LGT. So one, -1 damage is a hell of a drug. In this metagame, it felt very powerful. There was no game that it did not feel like it was making a major difference, even against the Eldar armies. If you have access to -1 damage, it has always been good this edition. It will continue to be good this edition, but it felt broken in this game, in this event. The Redemptor Dreadnoughts are genuinely really good. If you are on the fence about them, give them a try. I think the ability to split fire and having 4 relevant guns and a melee profile is really good in the current environment. The list is really light on screening units. Definitely consider those challenges I was talking about with Paul Neuberger. The -1 Hammer Strike, +1 Outriders, and +1 Tech Marine. You could also do Scouts and an ATV, was the other thing I was considering, like they kind of in that same space of 2 scoring units. The Stormraven should not be allowed to charge. I don't understand why it can move 26 and then charge. It can even auto advance 26 and charge and shoot as well. People like seg faulted when I was telling them about what the Stormraven could do during deployment. If you have the ability to play with Stormraven, you should consider it. It is really good, and it will absolutely trounce a lot of people. A lot of lists are not equipped to deal with it. A lot of lists that are equipped to deal with it don't deal with it when you are good with it. Yeah, strongly consider playing it. It's great fun. Gulliman and Calgar are amazing. They're still some of the best units in the Space Marine Codex, and the ability to crack ruins that nothing else in the game feels like it would have been able to deal with, except maybe like fight for stuff on 25 mil bases, was unparalleled. So much of this tournament came down to them being able to charge into an unwinnable situation and come out the other side having flipped primary and won the game. Yuki terrain is a disaster. God, I cannot stand it. The big ruin. I'm going to jump back a couple pictures. Like this ruin here is an abomination. This ruin here is an abomination. And this ruin here is an abomination. It is too much terrain on the edge of your deployment zone that's too easy to stage into, what with an inch from the wall ruling existing. There's also too many sightlines. I don't know what needs to happen with it, but that ruin cannot be where it is. It is stupid. It does not work. It is too aggressively positioned. Like it is too easy to stage in it with an insane amount of pressure and then burst out without having your opponent have any ability to recover on it, besides being like the best mailing armies in the game or insanely fast shooting, and it's too centralizing. And I think it's just a mistake. Something needs to change with this terrain format. I don't know what it is. I'm not a paid terrain designer. That is not my forte. I am identifying a problem and calling out that it needs to change. And finally, this was a great weekend with amazing people. Massive thanks to Josie and Aiden, who were my Airbnb roommates for the Friday and Saturday. Josie went 4-1 with Possessed Slaughterbound with her 21 8-bound list, which is awesome. And Aiden went 2-3 with Imperial Agents, which is fantastic. The Gullman, if you saw him walking about with a seagull head, that was Aiden. He did great. Shout out to all of my Team Scotland teammates who I was constantly going up and saying hi to. I had a lot of downtime between games, so I was always going up and seeing like all the Team Scotland tryout guys. And then also my actual WC teammates from last year in Struan and Scott, who had a heartbreaker of a loss to Brian Sipe, and Stru, who lost by 1 point to JC Baron, who ended up making top 16. Just amazing people and great to chat with, but also to everyone who came up and said hi to me at the tournament, whether you were a Team Scotland tryout, whether you were just someone who's watched the StatCheck show and wanted to say hi. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. I had a great time. It was really enjoyable. And then a special thank you to all of my opponents. You guys were great. I had a really good time with all of you for as long as the games lasted. You were all an absolute joy. And then lastly, to the French who put me up in their Airbnb on the Sunday night. So that's Johan, Guillaume, Liam, Nas, Sako, and Paul. You guys were great. Thank you for letting me come and stay with you. We had in that Airbnb that night, 4 of the 8 of us were in the top 8, which is this picture that you can see here with myself, Paul, Liam, and Alex. It was great getting to hang out with you guys. With all you guys, you are absolute stars and the best 40k players in the world. And then Liam, holy shit, dude, you're the fucking best. You are the best player in the world right now in singles. Anyone who says otherwise is just wrong. I refuse to believe anyone else. 3 years in a row winning LGT is an unparalleled victory in singles, and you deserve everything that everyone said nice about you. Well done, my friend. I had the pleasure of playing him in the Invitational Finals. He kicked my ass in like 20 minutes, and we got to go home. It was great. Not great night list, not as good as the Stormraven list. I know, I wanted that game, man. I wanted it. I wanted to play you. Yeah, gutted, but well done. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. It's been greatly appreciated. This has been Innis Reports. If you want to hear more from this, check out youtube.com/statcheck. If you want to hear more from me specifically, if you want to get coaching by me, if you want to talk about your games, if you want to do these breakdowns, you want to talk about all this kind of stuff, drop me a message at stat-check.com/coaching. There's a form. All my prices are up there and they're all updated. I added a bunch of new options. So if you're interested in anything like that, drop me a message. I'm more than happy to work with you. I love working with new people. I love prepping for tournaments and going through your games like this. If you've got stream games, anything like that, drop me a line. I would love to help you out. I play every army in the game. I'm happy to chat about all of them, even if you're an orc player. Please do let me know. This is my full-time job. I love doing it. And you guys reaching out is how I get to keep doing this. If you enjoyed the episode, if you enjoyed the content, please do share with a friend. That's the biggest one. Just send it to someone. Send it to someone you think would enjoy it. It really means a lot. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. This has been Innis. Catch you all next time. Oh, I have to hit the button for the outro video. Whee!